And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in both Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. He is Denny Thompson. I'm the hacker, Ryan Green, Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, and the good folks at George Moore Chevrolet bring you Gator Bytes.
Have y'all ever thought it was weird when you watch those Christmas commercials and people get like cars and trucks for Christmas?
Yes, the one where the girl gives the guy a puppy, and then the guy gets a huge truck every year that runs. It's
like, isn't that
always interesting to me?
Do y'all know people who have gotten like a car for Christmas?
I know one. Yeah, I know one.
The only time that I saw that a lot was when I was like turning 16.
So I guess if you're gonna buy the car anyway, you might as well make it a Christmas.
It'd be a great Christmas.
Yeah. Like when I was around that age in high school, I remember a couple of kids that got cars for Christmas, and that was like, they gotten their license a month before. Or whatever.
If you're gonna get a car for Christmas, go to George Moore. Like.
That's kind of the long way of saying it. It took a while to get there.
When you were saying
that, you got a kid who's 15, George Moore.
I instantly thought of like those commercials that you get every Christmas with the bow wrapped around the car, and I'm like, man, I'm not in that tax bracket.
No. It'd be a nice gift to get, no question about it.
But I guess if you're going to do that, go to George Moore.
I'm thinking football jersey, and these people are talking truck.
Right, exactly.
You can go Mooreing with George Moore, because I know the good folks over there, a lot of them are Gator fans. And
more love.
Yeah.
There you go.
And look, I'm one of the spoiled Gator media / former fans, although I'm now an objective broadcast journalist, Denny, as you know. I'm kind of one of the spoiled guys in that my fandom, before I became this objective broadcast journalist, started back in 1990. I'm 40 years old, right? I go back to when I was 7 years old, at 1990, when Spurrier arrived. I don't really remember much before that. Maybe a sprinkling of the AstroTurf, maybe a little Donald Douglas in 1989. But by and large, my memories really start in 1990 with Steve Spurrier. So you take it back 33 years. Denny, I don't know if I've seen a worse Gator defense in 33 years of watching Gator football than what we're experiencing right now. They are awful.
I don't know, man. That one that gave up whatever they gave up to Oklahoma. That was pretty bad.
With 2020?
Yeah.
The one that couldn't line up.
Yeah.
Remember every time somebody went in motion, like the entire defense's head exploded?
Well, here's what I know. Florida, and look, they were decent against Tennessee. They could not stop
Your
South
point
Carolina.
Is fair, though. I'm trying to be. They're terrible.
I mean, they couldn't stop South Carolina, Arkansas, Georgia, and I don't care how good Jaden Daniels is, and he's very good. 700 yards, 700 yards of offense put on that Gator defense. That is pathetic, and to me, that's inexcusable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I just don't know what's happening.
Well, is it youth? Is it Austin Armstrong's in over his head? Is it yes to all the above?
I think so. I think it's yes to all the above. And like when you say somebody's in over their head, I don't necessarily think that means they need to be fired right now. I think that means that you probably wasn't the best hire to start with, but let's give them another year and see.
They're needing to learn on the fly, I guess.
Right. I mean, maybe after they've settled into a year. I keep being that guy of no changes, but at the same time, like there's something badly broken in Gainesville. And the thing that I haven't heard anybody talking about is you can't let the wheels fall completely off the next 2 weeks. But there's a chance because the second best team you've played all year long is this week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not – this team waxes Utah. Missouri waxes Utah. There's Georgia, and then there's Missouri. And then there's everybody else that you've played on that schedule. This team is really stinking good. And then that game's going to end, and Florida State's going to take their place as the second best team that you have played all year, only behind Georgia. So if you don't figure something out, these two could be bad, man.
This was why that Arkansas game was so important a few weeks ago, and it was so crucial to not drop that game.
Yeah, I mean now you've taken a season where in the same year you beat Tennessee and you were 5-2, right, at one point. And now we're sitting here going, please don't get blown out.
Well,
Like, that's what it's come to.
yeah, and look, I mean, Missouri, they're playing for a New Year's Six bowl. If they beat Florida and they beat Arkansas, and they should, they're going to be in a New Year's Six bowl, which would be an incredible job by Eli Drinkowitz, who wasn't long ago, he was on the hot seat there in Columbia.
They got hosed out of one game.
Yeah.
And then they gave Georgia all they wanted. And I can tell you, I talked to Carson the very next morning, and the first thing that joker said was, yo, they were good.
Mm-hmm.
They got some dudes. They're structured. They're well coached. They were good.
Look, Gator fans are upset, and with good reason. And it's like we talked about, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. To me, and I'm not breaking any news here, I think a lot of people thought this. To me, this year was about three things. I didn't really necessarily even care about wins and losses. I told you I would take 7-5 or 6-6 at the beginning of the year. So wins and losses really didn't mean all that much to me. I was based in reality and not in hopefulness. I wanted young players to play, which that's happened. That's a check mark. I wanted to see improvement as the year got further into it. That has not happened. They are worse off now than they were a month ago. And the recruiting class is stay intact, which that's beginning to dissolve. They've lost 3 guys this week, 1 to Georgia, 1 to Texas, and 1 to Auburn. 3 of your now SEC rivals, with Texas coming in. So the recruiting class dissolving and the improvement not being there, they have struck out on 2 of the 3 criteria, at least I had for them coming into the year.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I'll be clear about this. Like, I like Billy Napier. I want Billy Napier, and I believe Billy Napier is long-term going to be a fine SEC quality football coach. But everything that you just said, Hacker, makes me doubt myself at that. Makes me go, well, wait a second. Okay, this is what I believe, but what I'm seeing is something completely different. Now, I still believe that, but there's nothing that you can tell me. 3 or 4 weeks ago, if you'd have said all those things, I'd have been like, hey, man, just give it time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is no argument for that. They have regressed, especially defensively. We've been talking about every single week, you don't move off of any coaches because of this recruiting class. Well, this recruiting class is getting ready to, this time next week, we'll be surprised if they're outside the top 10.
I'd be surprised if they're outside the top 10. They'll be in the 7 or 8 slot.
Man, these things happen, bro.
Because they've lost Nasir Johnson, they lost Wardell Mack, they lost Waller. They're going to lose Amaris Williams.
Let me tell you how this works. Let me take you behind the scenes for a second. Because a kid, y'all were talking about a kid off air that the rumor is he's going to decommit. Well, he's telling his boys that too.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling his Florida guys like, yo, man, I'm out. I'm bouncing. This is why I'm bouncing. Yo, come with me. And this, I've seen this happen all the time. And so once that ball starts rolling, man, it's like you got to flip it. You got to go score like a big one and get him telling off his guys, hey, man, Florida's the move.
Yeah.
And we're late to be counteracting that.
I wanted to wait on this, but since we're on the topic now, I'll bring it up. You have conversations this time of year with people, right? You have dialogue, and some of it is true, some of it's rumors, some of it's speculation, but that's what makes it fun. But I've talked to 2 people that I trust, one in particular in Gainesville. And let me just kind of throw this scenario at you that there might be a concern.
Sorry. There's 2 people that are listening to this right now that have both talked to Hacker, and he only trusts one of them.
No. I trust. I know. No, hold
so they're
on.
listening to this going, whoa, wait a second.
No. I trust both of them. One of them because of the line of work he's
okay.
would be higher than the other.
All right, that just struck me as pretty funny.
Because
My bad,
one of them, I believe, probably knows more than the other one.
Okay, I got you.
But I think they both know what
because
they're
one is a
about.
bartender,
Right,
and
the
the other.
second one, the second one's his neighbor.
All right. Texas A&M has fired Jimbo Fisher, obviously. They're looking for a head coach. They're looking for an entire new staff. DJ Lagway is in the state of Texas, and he lives very close to that A&M campus and has been there numerous times over the years. Now, he's been committed to Florida, has given no inkling that he's leaving Florida. I don't know if there were issues between DJ Lagway and Jimbo or that staff, but now that staff's gone. Whoever A&M hires, and we don't even know who they're going to hire. We have no idea who it's going to be. But whoever they hire, that first call is going to be to DJ Lagway. And to me, DJ Lagway, whether he's going to be any good or not in college football, we have absolutely no idea. But he signifies hope for the future of Florida. The perception among the fan base is that the hope is coming with 5-star quarterback DJ Lagway. And if for whatever reason at the 11th hour here over the next month before signing day, if that hope were to get interrupted by Lagway going somewhere else to a Texas A&M, for example, then I believe at that point all bets are off for the future of this Gator program in 2024. Your thoughts?
A lot of thoughts, a whole lot of thoughts. One, you're correct on everything. DJ Lagway is going to be a lot of people's first calls. There's a lot of jobs about to change. And DJ Lagway is going to be almost every one of their first calls because it's really hard to sign a good quarterback in college football. And in this NIL period, if you're very, very valuable at the last second. So whatever deal you have in place, like, they already know it. So whoever, and make up Texas A&M or whoever, can go, well, we're gonna do something stupid and we're gonna give you $10 million, something crazy, right? I don't even know if that makes sense, like, to do it, but it happens. The bigger issue with that would be if you rewind 12 months, you had 2 Elite 11 quarterbacks committed to your program 11 months ago.
And Marcus Stokes and Rashada.
Jaden Rashada.
Yeah.
And something happened with both of those. You didn't sign either one of those. And then if you fast forward and you do that again, and you get to the finish line and man, that's a bad sign. That's the stuff that was happening at Florida State. Mm-hmm. If you remember with Willie Taggart, is for a couple years in a row, it was like, oh, we got our quarterback. It was Sam Howell, right? Sam Howell was with them forever.
Yeah.
We got our quarterback. Bang, they don't have their quarterback.
And to be clear, the DJ Lagway thing, we have been given no inkling.
I'm talking general, because here's the other thing you got going against you, Hack, is you can't stop those calls because every one of them's calling and going, hey, you're signing with Napier. You're not signing with Florida. That kid's signing with Billy Napier and Ryan O'Hara and that whole crew. You don't know if they're going to be there in 2 years, dude.
And you got guys decommitting left and right from your class.
You have to, if you are a parent of that kid, you have to listen to that because that's true. That is a fact that you do not know. You cannot say with certainty that Billy Napier is going to be there throughout the 4 years. The odds are, look, right now, if you were going to bet, it's no. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think there's reason to be worried about that.
And I guess my point is Lagway has given no indication that he's thinking anything other than Florida, right? It seems like he's full steam ahead with this Gator class. I'm just simply throwing out there that with A&M hiring a new staff and the proximity of him in the state of Texas to College Station, and with Florida being awful on the field right now and having 3 decommitments in the last 4 days, there might be some concern in the Gainesville area that something could happen here at the 11th hour.
Yeah, there should be concern. But I also think this is important too. You got 2 games. We talked about how difficult they are. You got to recognize the opportunity that presents for you. Now, the bad thing is if you're Florida and you beat Missouri, you're supposed to beat Missouri. You don't get a whole lot of street cred for that.
Oh, I don't know about that this year.
From a recruiting perspective. You're not in battles with Missouri.
Missouri's a double-digit favorite.
I understand, but the recruits don't care. Like, you're not in a one-on-one recruiting battle with Missouri. Right, you're not recruiting the same kid.
But if you're Florida, normally, 9 times out of 10, I agree with you on this. If a 5-5 Florida goes into the number 9 ranked team in the country in their house, they're a double-digit underdog and wins the game. I'm not saying that's a season saver. That's a hell of a win. That would be the best win Florida's had the entire year.
I'm with Hack on this one.
It's a great win for fans.
Yeah?
It's a great win for fans.
I hear what you're saying. It's program name, but the recruits watch college football. I mean, they know Missouri's better than Florida.
90% of these recruits do not watch college football. They go to a different game every single weekend.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
That game. And my point was actually supposed to be heading to a positive. Is that
there's not a lot of positivity right now.
You got Florida State at home, 7 p.m. You will have a lot of eyes on that. There will be a lot of local recruits, which are the ones that you want, that watch that game. That's not going to watch Missouri.
And you'll have a hell of an atmosphere.
Have a great atmosphere. So you've got that opportunity, and I think it's important right now because this is all you can do if you're Billy Napier and staff is you have to stay. You have to just try to get better these next 2 weeks. You have to find your way to fight with everything you got for a bowl game because you need those 2 or 3 weeks extra of practice. You have to have them.
Yeah.
Right? And that's all you can focus on right now. All this recruiting drama and us talking about all this stuff, like, yeah, they're working. I promise you, dude. They're stressing and they're working about that, but you can't let that be the main thing right now. You have got to finish this season. You can't go out losing 2 games by 3 or 4 touchdowns each.
I'm curious what the atmosphere will be for Florida State. It is a 7:00 game. I remember the years of Tebow in particular when Florida State was awful and Florida was, 20-point favorite in that game. Doak Campbell Stadium had far more orange and blue in it than garnet and gold. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be to that extent. There will be a ton of Florida State fans.
Yeah, I
in
think
that
it'll
game.
still be, because you got to think, like, recently that game has been good, and recently Florida has won that game. So, yeah, I think the atmosphere will be all crazy. I think it'll be amazing.
When Florida,
especially being at 7:00. If it was at noon, then I'd be like, I don't know. But at 7:00, no,
I agree with that.
and Florida has. Well, I'm just saying that there's going to be a lot of Knowles in the swamp.
Yeah,
there's going to be far more Florida State fans in the swamp this year than they've had in a long time.
I mean, at that point, they are game for game playing for a national championship. There should be.
Yeah, and look, Florida's going to be playing to ruin their season. But Jordan Travis and Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, I hate to kill Florida fans' hope, 9 days before that game. Florida State's going to kill Florida with that defense the way they're playing right now. They're going to annihilate them.
Jeez.
I mean, are you kidding me?
This may be the overall, and it should be, the most negative Gator Bytes I've ever been associated
But seriously.
with. But it should be. Like, you're not saying anything that's wrong, but
What is there to be hopeful about with this Gator defense?
I hate doing negative content.
Right, I hear you. I hate giving up 700 yards of offense.
But I don't know how you do positive content on this right now. I'm with you, Hack.
Yeah,
The only way
you tell me how they're going to stop Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson and Tracer and all these and Benson and
who, by the way, have not even played
Jordan
their best
Travis.
game
no.
yet.
They're not going to stop those
close
guys.
to played their best game.
I was going to say the only prayer they have in that game is that the offense plays well, which they've played decent last, and then you have to get some lucky, fluky turnovers and stuff.
Can we give props?
maybe a special teams
can
turnover?
we give props, because I do want to do this, because the kid has had a hell of a year and he's a tough kid to Graham Mertz.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he's played really well.
Like that's and
The
I
offense has nothing to be ashamed of.
No, when you look at these last 2 games, like, I want to see 3 get the ball, right? And I want to see more of Graham. I want, like, let this guy go, man.
I think in the LSU game, because I know we've been talking a lot about the defense and recruiting for the most part. In the LSU game, one thing that I did like that they improved, I thought, from the week before, is it seemed like nearly every drive, 3, 7, or 1 touched the ball.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that the week before, and that stalled out a lot of drives. And one of those 3 players need to touch the football every single possession.
They're giving 7 the ball because they're probably afraid he's going to leave in the portal. And played him all
Dang
year.
it, Hack. We're trying to be positive.
Yeah.
Dadgummit, Hack.
Seriously, is that not a concern for you?
No, absolutely it is. But, I was going to also say, like, you have found some pieces that you got to be excited about next year.
Oh, yeah.
The tight end. Like, I mean, there's people that have flashed that we didn't know about, this time last year. So I don't know, man. I mean, it is what it is. It sucks. It's like, trust me, those guys in that building, it sucks far worse than it does for any of us. They're getting paid for it, but they want to win far more than we do. But there's not a whole lot of good to say right now, and I'm trying.
Today's Gator Bytes podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can log on to their website by going to se-ortho.com, and you can listen for Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, the good Dr. Kevin Murphy, on Thursday mornings in the 7:00 hour with Jeff and Dan right here on 1010XL for his weekly analysis of injuries in sports. Also, George Moore Chevrolet.
I'm actually glad you just reminded me, because we're leaving tomorrow to go to Knoxville. I gotta get my oil changed.
At George Moore?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Georgia.
You going to Georgia, Tennessee action?
Yeah.
Nice.
I've never been to Knoxville. I've been to Knoxville. I've never been to a game at Tennessee, so I'm excited about that.
No, that'll be good.
Yeah, so if you're going to get if you're traveling, like, don't run out of oil is the wrong term, right? I was gonna say don't run out of oil.
Don't get your car overheated.
Just get your oil changed.
Yeah. All right, so Florida goes to Missouri. They're not going to win that game. Let's be honest. They're just not. So they're going to be 5-6. And then your entire season comes down to ruining Florida State's season, which you would if you win that game. I think the committee has shown that Florida State cannot lose a game or else they're not going to be in the playoff because they keep being ranked 4th. And there is legitimate talk out west, and it's picking up steam. Why is Florida State above Washington? Which, if you look at the resumes of both,
because they're better.
Washington.
I don't give a crap about a resume.
Well, then what's
Florida State has got, like, they've won every game. They've got like
so
6
Washington.
NFL players on that roster that are going to be first or second round guys. They're a better football team.
Would Florida State have beaten Oregon?
They would wax Washington.
Really?
Absolutely.
I don't agree with that.
Let's line that crap up.
I'm with Hack
I don't
on
even
this.
like Florida State, but
Opinions are like eyebrows. I can't say the other thing. Opinions are like eyebrows.
Well, you can.
Well, I can. Opinions, everybody has opinions.
We all
right?
know what you want to say.
I'm going to live in a fact-based reality right now, and maybe I'm too much of a stats guy. Washington has better wins than Florida State. It's not debatable. The Oregon game is a better win than anything Florida State has done.
That's correct.
And it's not even close. And if both teams
I don't know about not even close.
Name one
LSU.
team. Oh, Oregon would destroy LSU.
Okay.
You don't think?
Okay.
All right, well then you keep going down the line. I mean, the Pac-12 is better than the ACC this year.
Okay, continue with your thoughts.
I'm just saying, if I'm a Washington fan,
fact-based.
Washington has better wins. They're undefeated. They have a better resume. And my point is, the committee ranking Florida State 4th, when people are already assuming that Washington may leapfrog them anyway, Florida State cannot afford to lose a game. So that game in the swamp is for Florida to ruin their season, or for Florida State to punch their ticket to the college football playoff.
Well, we're assuming a couple things here. If they win and Washington wins out, the odds are they both get in.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, so
because one of Michigan or Ohio State will get bounced.
Lose.
One
right?
of those
yeah.
lose.
So I mean,
it's
it's typical. Like I don't want to sit here and argue about something that's never going to happen. I just think Florida State's a really good football team. I think if Florida State plays their best football game, they may be the best football team in America.
I'm just saying.
The problem is they haven't played that. And to your point, like if you're a Florida State fan, you probably love that if you play your best football game, you can beat anybody. But you're probably also wondering, like, why haven't we yet? And I don't think they have. And so I think, if as long as you don't let them get going, maybe you have a chance. Maybe you got a chance in the third quarter. Now, I think you're right with Missouri, by the way. This is a terrible matchup for Florida. Awful matchup.
They don't play well up there anyway.
Well, think about the worst offensive games this year. It's Utah. We'll take that one out for a second. But it's Kentucky.
And Georgia,
right? They play the exact same defense.
Yeah.
Like, exact same defense. They probably play it just as well.
And their best defensive player is a former Gator, and Tyron Hopper. How about that?
Yeah.
The thing, real quick, because I want to get back into Florida and Missouri, and we got to talk about the other games. The thing with Florida State, though, look, they're very good. And again, I don't think Florida has a chance of beating them. I'm just saying, in a big picture point of view, you look at Florida State's resume now, it's not near as good as it was a month ago. Clemson, at the end of the day, is a 6-4 football team. LSU, at the end of the day, is a 7-3 football team. Your best win came against a 7-3 LSU team. And that was obviously on opening weekend 2.5 months ago. So the ACC is awful this year. I mean, the bottom line is
true.
Duke, Boston College,
I'm not
Pitt,
arguing with you that
they have really not played anybody worth anything in the conference.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you that there's a better resume. I'm just saying, from what my eyes tell me when I watch teams, there's not many more talented teams than Florida State.
But man, I'll tell you, I watched a lot of Washington's game this past weekend. We all know Michael Penix is a stud. I think
the receiver's a stud too.
That's who I was going to talk about. What's his? I forgot his name.
I can't remember it either.
He's insane.
Yeah.
He's up, dude. He's up there with Wilson and Coleman.
But then you start talking about this Pac-12 stuff, and then you start to question even that because everybody puts up numbers.
They do. There's not a lot of defense being played.
It's a 7-on-7 league. I don't know. I mean,
it's interesting that the last year of the Pac-12 is like the best year they've had in forever. Oregon State, Oregon, Southern Cal until recently. Obviously, Washington. I mean, there are some good teams out there.
Who's the best team in the country right now?
Georgia.
Where's Alabama at?
Well,
forget records, forget resumes. Like you have to play any team in the country who the teams you don't want to play, and I think Alabama's in that.
I would probably take Alabama over anybody except Georgia right now.
I haven't seen enough of Michigan.
The
Michigan-Penn State game was the biggest disappointment I've seen all year.
If Ohio State and Alabama played right now, who wins?
Alabama.
Neutral site.
Alabama.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
I think they have figured something out with this Milroe guy, and like that Georgia Alabama game is going to be a war.
Well, and the crazy thing is Georgia's going to want to win that game, but it might not mean anything for Georgia. They're going to get in regardless, and Alabama's going to have it to get in.
How would that happen?
Well, I mean, because you take a one-loss Georgia gets in over a one-loss Michigan or Ohio State, correct?
What if that game goes to? And I know we're doing regular radio, not Gator stuff, but what if that game comes to the end?
Yeah, I guess it depends.
I guess that's I don't know. I can't.
If
wait
that's
for the
an
expanded playoff.
Alabama overtime win and Alabama gets into the playoff and Georgia's only loss is to another playoff team in overtime,
I agree.
Georgia still gets in.
I haven't
opinion.
watched enough Ohio State and Michigan to know, like, if that game does that, do they both deserve?
See, that's
to get
Florida State's problem.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
true. That's fair.
Florida State's problem is they don't have a game that's going to help them. They have North Alabama, they have Florida, and then they're going to have Louisville, and that's it. So if you happen to lose one of those games, you're done. They need to win out because
I agree.
Washington and Oregon are going to play each other.
You know what? It's a great place to be in.
It's a great place to be
If
in.
you're this deep in the season, and all you got to do is win, then that's a great place to
And
be.
against three teams that you're far better than.
And again, I'm going to go back to this just to bring a positive spin to this. Like 3 years ago, all the conversations we're having about Florida were being had about Florida State.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
And they stuck with Mike Norvell.
Yep.
And they're reaping the benefits quickly because I want to look at these games. Not a great slate though.
No.
This week. Somebody on the Gator defensive coaching staff is going to pay for this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's Austin Armstrong, but it's somebody.
Yeah, no.
You have to have a fall guy to be this awful.
Listen, that week after the season ends is going to be a
And
sorrowful one.
can I just say something we haven't mentioned, and just in regards to this defense thing? Every single decommit is a defensive player.
Yeah, so far. Give it time.
I get it. I'm just saying the first ones that are watching what they see on the field and deciding to jump ship are all defensive players.
You blame them?
No, I'm not saying.
I know. That's that.
I'm saying this exemplifies the
validating your
problem.
point, yeah.
And none of them are from the state of Florida either, right? Mac's not from Florida, Waller's from Mississippi, and Johnson's from Georgia.
Yeah.
So,
Amaris Williams is from North Carolina.
yeah, and
so.
he's probably going to go to Ohio State. All right, let's get into these games. We'll wait for Florida and Missouri at the end. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist, they're Northeast Florida's leading orthopedic center, providing an unparalleled level of care across numerous locations in Jacksonville and St. Augustine. That includes Riverside, Northside, the South Side, the beaches, Fleming Island, and St. John's. Thank you to Southeast Ortho, and of course, George Moore Chevrolet for bringing you this week's edition of Gator Bytes. You're going to Knoxville. 3 weeks ago, that looked like it's going to be a really good game. To say Tennessee is limping to the finish line is an understatement. They got waxed last week by Missouri. Does Georgia have any issue on Saturday at Neyland Stadium?
I don't think it's an issue, but I think it'll be a good game. I mean, again, I think Missouri's a really good football team.
Yeah, but 36-7.
I always kind of thought we could go back to the early tapes. Like I always kind of thought this was going to be a struggle year for Tennessee a little bit. I think Heupel has done a great job this year. Actually, I don't know what the people in Tennessee think, but when you lose everything you lost last year, you come off that year, and this is a year you got to hold serve. I think for the most part he has. If you take away the blip in Gainesville, the Missouri team's just good. But I do think they put up a fight. The place is going to be crazy. The atmosphere is going to be amazing. The weather is supposed to be beautiful. So I do think that they put up a fight. But I think Georgia's finding their stride. I think Georgia runs away with it. I think Georgia has finally just staked claim to, okay, we are the best team in the country right now.
Who's the A&M leader in the clubhouse to replace Jimbo?
I don't even know. There's a part of me that thinks, maybe I'm thinking too much, but if a group of guys gets around and they say, we're going to spend $85 million to fire this staff, it's probably more than that, right? By the time you get done with all the buyouts, like I would think that they want to hire somebody that's going to bring that money back to them in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's got to be a splash hire, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like I don't think you pay that to go hire a young up-and-comer or somebody you've got your eye on.
Well, you saw who they made contact with, apparently.
Who?
It was Dan Campbell. Former Texas A&M player, now with Detroit. Apparently,
Dan,
he
don't
said,
do it, bro.
No, he said thank you, but no thank you. That's the rumor is they made contact with his agent and
the
money thanks, but no thanks.
The money's more in college, but the quality of life in the NFL is so much.
You imagine Dan Campbell though as a college coach?
Oh, he'd crush it.
Be hilarious.
He'd crush it.
Yeah,
he'd absolutely crush it.
But he's doing a great job in
so
the NFL.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think like if I'm Lane Kiffin, I'm not going there. The same thing we talked about the other day with Florida. Like I'm just not going there.
Do they call Dion?
That was my first thought. My first thought was, okay, if I'm spending $85 million, and I need to bring that money back, there's only one picture that pops in my head, and that's Dion.
See, my first thought is Mississippi State for Dion because of his ties to the state with Jackson State. If Mississippi State wants to get on the radar.
Leaving Colorado from Mississippi State.
Yeah,
I don't from Mississippi State.
No, I don't think he'd do that either.
No.
I want to see Dion.
You're not talking about a guy
completely disagree with that.
Well, you're not talking about a guy trying to grind your way up.
Colorado is a terrible job. Mississippi State's in the Southeastern Conference. There is no way on this planet.
But then
you're going to sit here and tell me Colorado is a better job.
I didn't
than
say
Mississippi
it's a better
State.
job. I
No.
said I'm not leaving. Like quality of life and everything else. Like
But Denny
made something there.
Denny just said it. He said, you're not talking about a guy that's trying to grind his way and stair-step his way up the coaching ladder. You're talking about Dion Sanders.
Then why did he leave Jackson State then?
He's not. That's not a grind your way. Like
But he
went
doesn't-
from high school to head coach at Jackson State. He didn't have to go be a position coach or anything like that. He went to head coach, and then he went to Colorado, and
He
won
left
a
for the
couple of
first.
games.
He left for the first Power 5 team that called him. He left Jackson State for the first
Right,
Power
but
5. And if an
that's
SEC
not true at all. That's not true
Power
at
5,
all.
Florida Atlantic was in the conversation. What other Power 5 teams called Dion?
I mean USF.
not
I guess-
Power 5.
Okay. Heck, he's not. He's a
I'm just
Hall
saying,
of
if an
Famer. He's
SEC
not.
team calls, I think
Dion
Dion.
at Mississippi State, no way. No way. Dion in College Station, I don't even think, like, if I'm Dion, okay, let's be real. Dion's printing money. He has turned Boulder, Colorado into Hollywood, and they're not even any good. Like,
Well,
I
The luster's off of him now.
wouldn't hire.
They stink, man.
I wouldn't hire Dion right now. I would give him another year or two.
He's not getting any
personally.
younger. He's like
Well, I
pushing
think-
60.
But I think at some point, it might not be Texas A&M this year, but at some point in the next couple of years, if Dion keeps it together in Colorado and has a good program, a big fish is going to hire him.
That's what I was trying to get to. It's like the luster of him.
Yes,
And,
correct.
And money moves the world, and the money that this guy is moving, like it's
And it's
hard,
not to
man.
say Mississippi State is not a better job than Colorado, but a better job than Mississippi State is going to call Dion Sanders. If the wheels fall off in Colorado,
Right.
it's different. But
my point is, I don't think Dion's ever going to be anywhere for 5 years. He's not going to go to Mississippi State and put the boots in there and be there for a decade. He'll go to Mississippi State for 2 years, and if he's good, then he'll go to the next gig. I mean, Dion seems like the kind of guy that is not going to be at a place long term. That's just my vibe on it.
I mean, I think you're probably right on that, but
what about UCLA for Dion?
we're getting into a whole show.
I know. I just had to throw that wrench in there.
Have y'all been to UCLA's campus?
The
No.
facilities are terrible.
That campus, though.
It's nice.
Oh, we were just there.
Yeah.
I was just there a couple weeks ago. It absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks like Chip Kelly's going to be showing the door.
Talk about a movie. Dion in L.A.
That'd be insane.
But again,
That'd be
Dion,
so sick.
he's 4-6. They're awful.
They
Y'all,
stink, man.
here's
They're
the
bad.
thing. I don't care. I just love the entertainment.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let me turn on my TV and see Lil Wayne walking a team out. That's dope.
Yeah.
Fine. I don't have a pulling interest.
It
Like,
was a month and a half ago when you're getting boat raced by all these
I
Pac-12
know, it's
teams.
changed.
The
Yeah.
luster's off a little
Well,
bit.
we haven't talked about Dion in a month.
No,
and
and
a
he's
half. Nobody
been
has.
relegated to the Pac-12 network, which nobody gets here.
Right, exactly.
You know, he's not
Yeah.
on Fox exactly every week. All right, Kentucky, South Carolina.
Kentucky. Bad game.
It's one of the best of the week, though, in the conference.
I know. Bad game. That it's in
It's in Columbia.
Kentucky because you're making me pick one.
So Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, South Carolina, and the only other SEC game. This is the week where a lot of paychecks
Can I
are
ask
getting
you real
handed
quick,
out.
What happens to offense in Kentucky? We have Will Levis, who could do nothing at Kentucky. And now you've got another guy that you brought in, a very valuable transfer who was highly thought of. It's like you get to Kentucky and they can't do anything.
Yeah.
It reminds me of
Other than Florida week, and they look like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
but that was
Well,
just,
that
they
was
just
the running
handed
game.
off.
Yeah, it wasn't Devin
and they
Leary.
just handed off. They ran the same play.
Graham Mertz has been better than Devin Leary
It
this
reminds
year.
me, it's got like that Will Muschamp vibe to it. Like everywhere he went, the offense was terrible, but the
Yes.
defense was great. It's got that vibe to me.
All right, we got to go quick. Florida, Missouri.
Oh, Missouri.
I mean, is it close? Missouri's an 11.5-point favorite.
Unfortunately, not. It's on the road.
At night.
Yeah, Brady Cook's playing well.
I'll take
Takes
the
some
points,
chances. Yeah, I'm with you. Easy. I mean, I was about to say something
Man, they're going to lose by 20, dude.
I was about to say 38-13 or some crap like that.
That defense is effort. Not only are they bad, but they don't try, man. That secondary does not try to make tackles when any player gets to the
It's
second
gonna
level.
be cold.
Yeah, Jason
Dude.
Marshall didn't look exactly excited to tackle Jaden Daniels. Yeah, well, actually, high 50s, low 60s.
Okay, that's nice.
And Missouri an 11.5-point favorite. So we'll see.
What time is that?
7:30 on the SEC network. It doesn't get a whole lot bigger than that. Actually, no, check that. ESPN 7:30.
Let's go.
Florida, Missouri.
Prime time.
How about that? All
Is
right.
Herbie on
Logo
the
holds
call?
weight, baby.
Herbie coming down?
I would doubt Herbie's on the call, although it's a bad week in college football. Again, this is the paycheck week. You got Tennessee, Chattanooga, and Alabama. La Monroe, Ole Miss. Boy, Ole Miss had egg on their face last week. Southern Miss, Mississippi State. This is just one of those terrible weeks.
Southern Miss. I don't know anything about Southern Miss, but I like their chances. What's the line in that one?
Well, Southern Miss is awful.
Are they?
Yeah,
Brett
they're
Favre's not
absolutely
walking
awful.
through that door.
All right, so we're going to be back next week's Thanksgiving. We'll try to get together maybe on Wednesday to discuss Florida State. I just think it's going to be a bloodbath, man.
Acts like, look.
There's not a scenario barring catastrophic injuries for the Noles where I think Florida's on the field with them next week. That defense is awful.
What do you have more confidence in? What do you have more hope in? This one or next one? Missouri or Florida State?
They're not going to win either, but I probably have more hope in Florida State just because it's at home, I guess.
It's the atmosphere surrounding it. Yeah,
I agree.
But
too.
again, I'm tempering my expectations on the atmosphere, man. Florida State's always a big deal. But I remember when Florida State sucked and Florida was reigning supreme, Doe Campbell Stadium had 30,000 Gator fans in there. There's going to be a lot of Florida State fans in the swamp.
It's not going to be like 2 top 10 teams, but it's going to be a good atmosphere. It's not going to be empty.
No, I'm not saying empty. I'm saying a lot of Garnet and Gold's going to be in there.
It's going to be. It'll be fun. Like they're not. Again, I'm with you. They're not going to win either one. But I don't know, man. I just think Missouri's about to beat the tar out of Florida.
I do too.
I hope not. We'll
Yeah.
see. Next Wednesday, does that work for you?
Sure.
All right, next Wednesday. We'll plan on it the day before Thanksgiving to break down what sure is an illustrious performance between Florida and Missouri and look ahead. What do they call it? The Sunshine Showdown? Is that what it is?
Oh, really?
I think then they play for some trophy that nobody knows what it is between Florida and Florida State.
Sounds fun.
Oh, it'll be exciting.
I know when Florida State wins, they hold up the Gator head.
And they'll do that, and they'll get the sod, and I'll be all mad and pissed off for a little bit, then I'll get over it. That is Denny Thompson. He is Graham Marsh. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. Thank you for watching and listening to Gator Bytes, 1010XL.com and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.